It's about to go down with Marc and Cathey, a live coaching show about dropping ideas. Marc and Cathey coach and have conversations with brilliant idea creators who are reimagining the world through the expression of their words, thoughts, and action.
Hey everybody, I am Cathey Armillas. Welcome to It's About to Go Down.
And I am Marc Williams, and as you can tell, this is a super special moment. Cathey has given in and coming over to the East Side, New York City,
Woo!
Right? Brooklyn, if you will. And we are here for a special episode of It's About to Go Down because we are together live and in person. Okay. Yes. And it's also super special because, man, we've got a guest today who blows my mind. From the moment I met you, King, I'm not just going to say sir. From the moment I met you, King, I'm going to say brother. Since the moment I met you, brother, man, you have inspired me. You have absolutely inspired me, and I can't wait for everybody to hear this conversation and to learn about you and the idea that you have. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us today a recreation strategist. And that is only the tip of the iceberg of what this gentleman has done and can bring to your life. Sir Kinja Dixon, who is here today with us to talk about this idea about turning your life force into a progressive movement through daily creative action. Kinja Dixon, welcome to It's About to Go Down, brother.
Man, you are a speaker. I love it, brother. I'm excited. You got me ready to run through this computer. Man, I'm telling you, I love it. And I'm just honored to be a part of your intention as a group. I've seen you all with so many powerful interviews, and I'm just honored to be a part of this movement that is helping all of us as seekers just increase our awareness, you know, because in that state of babiness that I love to stay in, it's just such a beautiful thing to know that wherever we are is nowhere compared to where we're going. And I just know you all, that's entirely what your purpose is. So I'm just honored to be a part of the movement.
Well, we're glad to have you here, man. So tell us, let's kick it off.
Yes.
Tell us about this whole idea about turning your life force into this progressive movement through daily creative action. Why is this idea so important to you? And why are you the one who should be the one to release this idea to the world?
Well, I believe there have been many mistakes that I've made along my journey. And due to the way I almost took myself out of here on a physical realm, in 2009, I had to hit the reset button. And it led to several results in my life, and it took me getting to my second book, which is titled Recreationism, to realize that everything that has happened in my world is by focusing on these four aspects of my living existence. First of all, to give just a little context, in 2009 in February, after coming back from a company trip, I was in my home with my girl at the time. She was showing off all our pictures, and I was very embarrassed because I was at the time 320 pounds. I was the biggest in my life. I was very self-conscious, and a lot of things happened in that room that led me to say, you know what? I am going to reach out to one of the trainers that I know, and I am going to figure out how to get myself back on track, because reflecting on my life, I was 175 pounds when I first went into the military. You know, only did a couple of years before I got out and started in sales, but I just had one of those flashback moments, and it was like, where are you on your way to? And once I started with the trainer, and then started losing, and then October of 2009, October 31st, I have my last alcoholic beverage. So this October of 2014 will be 14 years of no alcohol. And with my aggressive intent to learn more, get my emotions underway. And before you know it, things just happen where 4 years later, I ended up winning these 2 awards in my sales career that made me, based on what people told me, the #1 sales executive in the world. I wore the gold Stevie and the Otter. And so the first book that I released dealt with communication, which was what helped me, serve people and help my ability to communicate with myself and others. But it took until about 3 years in this game of speaking, where in 2016, I realized that, Kinja, everything that you have received had more to do with not the title of your first book, Universal Talk Laws, How to Increase Your Net Worth with Words, but it had to do with this lifestyle that focused on these 4 pillars. The P is for purpose, the H is for health, the K is for knowledge, and the E is for emotions. And these 4 things I have been working on consistently and helping thousands of people across the globe start rearranging their priorities. Like, honestly, I believe if we were plants, these would be the water, the light, and the nutrients that create our ability to grow on a continuous basis. And I'm now in the 14th year of just riding this coattail, and I'm just so excited about it because it's not only helping change my life, but many other people that are like, wow, it's so simple, but why is my health not as important as my job? Why is it that my emotions are not as important as my purpose? Why is it that I have been living this compartmentalized life where I put energy on certain things but didn't put the energy on the others? I did it for 30 years, so I'm clear. And so I'm not only through living it, but I'm helping people realize, wow, this is something that is simple, but why don't I already do it? It's because of the way our humanity and our world has just led us to put more focus on the things we're good at instead of realizing that we're holistic beings that can turn into progressive life forces through daily creative action.
God, whew. Boom. That's what I thought. I was like, mic drop, done. Kinja, amazing. First of all, congratulations. I didn't know you in 2009, but I see a fire in you. I see life in you. I can tell, I can see this journey without even knowing what the other side looked like. And it's fire. It's so great. One of the things I love about your book and about what you're talking about is a holistic view, because I do think you're right. Most of the world struggles with, we get really good at one thing and then we forget everything else. But then everything will crumble at some point if we don't cover. And I love that you covered everything in these 4 things, the purpose, health, knowledge, and emotions. It's that's everything. Tell me a little bit. So, first of all, you are going to give a TED Talk on this, right? Yes.
Yes, I definitely will. Yes.
Good. Because, this is definitely one of these topics that I think people, everything you said, I think people have that information right in front of them, and they never think about it, or they try to push it away. Let me ask you really quick, because when Marc first introduced you, one of the things that I would struggle with immediately is if I was somebody trying to consume this idea, I feel like it's really long and it takes a minute, turning your life force into a progressive movement through daily creative actions. And I get that that's to you, that's probably the whole thing. I think first place we should start is how would we explain that a little bit more punchy, or how can we get to, because I think that will help. I think that will help you be able to articulate it a little bit faster and easier. That's a lot to digest. So let's get into the conversation so we can try to do that. What are the daily creative acts? Tell us a little bit more about that. Let's get to that, because I feel like all of that sentence is going down into this daily creative actions.
And it's really a customized process. Like when I'm delivering my programs, my goal is to, once it's clear, and we grade ourselves in each of the pillars based on our individual situations, we're going to end up being higher or lower. And once we figure out what our lowest grade is, I consider that the recreation point. Because once what I realized through action and several others is that, wow, once I can put some energy into that lowest grade, it is going to ripple into my highest grade and all the grades in between. And once that becomes a normal part of my life, my awareness has increased. My children's view of what's possible has increased. My way of performing at work has increased. So really it comes down to a customization based on everyone individually grading themselves and then figuring out what their lowest grade is. And what's also been exciting is that during all of these presentations, over 700 in the last decade, there are so many more similarities that we have than we think, because we've also been taught that we're separate, when in actuality, when you're looking at things from a landscape view, we're all a part of one humanity that just had different parents, different experiences. So once we get down to the below the surface, we start realizing, wow, you're not the only one that when you smell them donuts, you wanna jump through the donut window. No, you don't think that just because I'm 179 now, I don't have those same urges that I had when I was 300. I just went through an emotional intelligence pillar increase process that helped me control the way I release my urges and transmute them to other things that I do to exhaust that energy.
For me, it's the Brooklyn pizza, right? We're walking down the street, Kinja, and I'm like, I couldn't live here. I would be 500 pounds eating pizza every day. Like, donuts smell good, but it's the pizza. Yeah, I get it, Kinja.
Yes.
Marc, what do you think of this? So something I thought of is like, tell me if I'm oversimplifying this, Kinja, but I feel like it's like finding your worst to create your best, because it's something like that, right?
I love it.
So, because that's ultimately, when you told me that everybody has a custom score, I got that. I understood that. I was like, yeah, maybe my purpose would be a 0 from 0 to 10. My health is a 9, like I'm doing really great or something, right? And so then it's like I would hone in on my worst thing to create my best, like to live my best life or whatever. I don't know. I'm on that space.
So first of all, I got to tell you, I really love that. I really love that, and because I think it really helps people to get it.
Yeah.
Right? I love that. I also love that, Kenja, you used the phrase the recreation point. And that might be tied up all in this phrase of finding your worst to become your best. Here's something you said, though, that puts a question mark in my head. You said earlier, let me find it in my notes, our world has put our focus on what we're good at. And so I'm wondering about listen to my English word. I'm wondering about the dichotomy.
Ooh, look at that. Look at that.
Because when you said we focus a lot on what we're good at, that sounded like that might not necessarily be a good thing, even though we're calling it something we're good at.
Could it be Kinja, are there things that are, like, I would call it a distractor, if, like, in the context of what Kinja's talking about? I feel like some things in our life could be distractors. I don't know if that would be a good way to describe it, right? Even if it seems like a good thing, if it distracts you from your purpose, if it's distracting you from your health, it's not good regardless. Yeah, I don't know.
Your light bulb moment, Marc, is so powerful, because what ends up happening as this becomes a part of your lifestyle is no one is better than anyone.
Yeah.
Because every single part of the tangible accomplishments are all a byproduct of working on these invisible things. And because we're all imperfect beings, just progressing at the best way we can, it does something for me where I believe that I'm everything and nothing simultaneously. So what this does, speaking to your point, is what happens that people consider good is just a byproduct of a focus that I'm gonna continue going on, so I don't go through that complacent situation that I used to go through when I lived by the normal human rules. So I graduate, I get a certain amount of money, I start doing well, and now let me coast. No, once you eliminate that process, I'm getting benefits, but this is nothing, because every single day I'm starting off at ground zero, working on these 4 things to help go toward this unlimited potential that I'm a part of, just like this universe that we're all equally benefiting from. The universe doesn't have the ability to be like, ooh, we're billions and billions and billions of miles wide, because it just continues to expand. And that's what this entire process is helping me help people see, but I'm also experiencing it. So the better I do, the more humble I am, and the more urgency I put into working towards increasing the pillars. Instead of the way it used to be, the more money I had, the more I used to flaunt. The more awards I won, the more I walked around with my chest out like I'm better than someone. And what it did was it led to me lowering down grades and focuses in other parts of my life that under this process are equally important every single day, regardless of how good it may seem to the average human eye. If that makes sense.
I had such I just have such a moment when Kinja's so good. I have such a moment when he was talking where I was like, if I was looking at somebody, regardless who that person was, somebody that like maybe, makes a lot of money or is good in one area, like you pointed out, Mark. But if I were to look at your 4 pillars, that is how I would not judge or grade, but that's how I would be like, oh, are you really living life? If I see your purpose, if I can see that you don't have purpose, you have purpose, but then you don't have health, you don't have anything if you don't have health, right? So you don't have anything if you don't have purpose, even if your health's good. Like, I understand that. So now if I look at somebody, I would be like, we're living our best life if we can say that the purpose, the health, and the knowledge and the emotions are all kind of in check and they're doing well. Yeah. Have you ever messed around with any of the, like, I was thinking it's almost like if you took the PHEK, it's almost another way of saying fuck or feck or something like that. Fucky. And then there's like, I don't know. I couldn't help it. I started messing around. With it. I was like.
And then another thought I want to throw in is that it also gives hope to a person no matter where they are on their journey.
Yep.
Because now you don't have to feel like I am so behind, because today is the beginning of me simply focusing on these pillars and identifying my biggest area of opportunity. And now this also helps with lowering envy, because now I can be inspired by that person that may have a high health grade, knowing that, wow, they're also working on their purpose. So it just connects us, because we start to learn. I just know, based on feedback and how I look at it, I have compassion for people that I see in a situation where they're doing things the way I used to do it, because I'm like, wow, I understand how, after not having financial stability, getting it and then feeling like, wow, I deserve to do this, because I get it. So it helps. The more you understand it, the more you can have compassion and empathy and connect with it, versus the old, they're better than me, the wealthy does this, or I'm broke. It's like, no, they're all humans that were exposed to certain things in their life. They put more energy on things, got results, so they adapted to living that way. And it's not their fault. So instead of me judging them, let me learn from them and put that mirror on myself, because once we dive deeper, we'll start seeing that, wow, I may have a similar downfall just in another area due to the way I came up. And it helps you just look at things more on an equilibrium, even state, versus the compartmentalization that we're, trained to do.
Now, I got a question with all of that.
Yes.
Because here's something I think that I'm hearing that I'm also interested in. Is there a point where you kind of get to that high score, or you become good at, whatever your low grade was, right? You're working on that lowest grade, and then it gets to become a good grade. Is there a point where your grade gets so high that it becomes a bad thing?
It's so beautiful that is usually an emotional intelligence issue or a hunger for new knowledge issue. And I'll give you an example based on me including yoga into my life and being more flexible than I ever have been. As my focus on all these pillars have continued to increase, I started doing things that I could not have imagined in some of these pillars. And what I have had to do on several bases is like take a step back and be like, Kinja, get yourself in check. You're just a growing mechanism. And this is what we usually don't do once you get past a certain level in the life pyramid. And this is why you'll see a person that's a professional athlete or an actor or some of these things that we put focus on that make them quote unquote better than others. And then they do these things and you're like, what happened? It's simple, because like what you just said, because of their lack of understanding this philosophy, they put so much energy on a certain area that it did become bad. And what we usually do is we keep putting more energy in that area. And that's why it's not, a surprise that some of the wealthiest people, some of the unhealthiest people, some of the people that have taken things to the extreme are not really doing well in other areas of their life, or they have a very, very low grade in something. And what they did is, because of that low grade, they had higher grades in the other areas, but they let that low grade sink them down, because that low grade is what everybody else puts their energy on. So now I let humanity drop me down because of their focus, versus being a little hot, keeping, understanding how to have pride in what I am good in, and let me just focus on this a little bit. So so to answer your question and make it more concise, yes, sir, it is a very possible thing. And that's why the goal is to remember I am everything and nothing simultaneously. And that is something that has just helped me connect with so many people. It has helped me keep the pressure on myself positively like a diamond. And as you increase these grades, what used to be an issue don't become as much an issue, because as you change, what you see changes. You know what I mean? And what you thought was the top of the mountain now becomes the bottom of the mountain. But you're not unhappy about it because you're more inspired to keep climbing. You know what I mean? So it's really cool.
Cathey, I got a word for you.
What's the word?
And the word is not increase. I hear you say increase your grade, but I keep hearing to level your grade. Because ultimately the answer you gave back is, because if you're always working on increasing the grade, which means this is good for me and I just want to keep being good at it. And like you said, if it's all about, we keep pouring energy into some things, and after a certain point, it becomes a bad thing. So what I'm hearing is, it's not necessarily about increasing the grade, or it's about increasing the grade to a point, and then it's about leveling it off, right?
It's about keeping them all level too.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's like the four,
By the way, I'm thinking about, when we man, I don't know if I'm aging myself or not, but when you're in the sound studio and you get that graphic on the screen, and the bass and the treble. Yeah. To me, that's like the four pillars, right? You got to get the levels. You got to make sure it never goes too high and it never goes too low. Yeah.
I love that. I love the word. It's so critical when you have such a great idea like this, Kinja, to be able to use those rich words and the rich concepts so that people really get it on a deeper level, and it does become a little bit more than it sounds as deep as what it is. I'm going to go back to it one more time. I'm so sorry. I think it's the Fecky score. Like, I'm not going to say a bad word. I like it because I just like something that you can like. I was like, no, PH, because you do the PH. Do you do it in that order? Let me see the thing. Can I see your thing again?
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
P-H-E-K.
Yeah, P-H-E-K, like feck. The feck score. Feck. Like fleck, but feck. Something. It's cool. Like, I don't know. Anyway, is this...
People will remember.
Exactly.
Close. It's close. I know. I was like, sorry, I didn't mean it to relate it to anything bad.
Feck it.
Feck it. Like, it's, sorry, y'all.
Oh my goodness.
Kinja, this is why we have to have these conversations, because sometimes you say something and then you go, 100% no, don't use that. But we have to talk about it in order to get it out of the way. Or
5 years in, this is a first. I've never had recreationism turn into the sex score.
The sex score, right?
I throw the extra emphasis on the E. Yeah. I love it.
Oh my gosh. No, I love that. I love this leveling. I love, I was thinking even about because I had originally said also like finding your worst to create your best. It's probably more like a discovering, or this is a little tomato, but I do like what Marc is saying, Kinja, because everybody, as you're saying, everybody's going to have different levels. If there's 4 different bars here and if we were able to see everybody's above their head, we would easily go, oh, wow, okay, your FEC score, or whatever, like your score, I can see that you're, or you see somebody and you're like, oh, it's pretty level. It's good. Like, that's really good. Or you're kind of, because you're finding out what's that worst thing. And it probably is a little bit also how far you've come in that area. Would that be true too? Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's not even that it's low. It's like, let's say you went from a 0 to a 3 and something. And then you went from a 9 to a, to a 5 or something. The 5 might be higher than the 3. I'm just using numbers. I don't know if you actually use numbers, but
yeah, we do. We do.
Okay. The drop is so much more from the 9 to 5. So it'd be like, ooh, I better pay attention. Like, that's the area I might need to pay attention to. And so just understanding, like Marc said, that it's all about keeping that in balance and leveled. I really like that.
And what's so beautiful about what I've noticed is most of our grades, whether high or low, are based on things that happened in our lives before we were 10 years old.
Oh.
And that's one of the things as well that helps so many people discover, wow, so it's not as hard as I thought it was. It's just that I had these habits being instilled into my neuroplasticity, my brain formation process, before I even realized I was learning. And that was such a breakthrough for me. And that's why once you realize that, it helps you increase your awareness in those areas, because you can fall victim to it. Because like in my case, I have been a glutton for food as therapy since I was a little child. And I realized that as food became a form of therapy for me. I mean, it was just, and once I understood it, it's like, wow, it's not as hard as I think. It's just that, Kenja, you've been like, 10,000 hours of mastery. You're like 1,000 hours of mastery in therapeutic food habits, man. So now I know that, okay? So now you have to strategically know how to maneuver your days and your processes. And honestly, I am better, I know this, under a plan for food. I work best under a plan. Now, someone that wasn't in a situation like that, they might not have an issue with food like that. They might realize, wow, their purpose grade is low because they were around parents that hated their jobs, complained every time they came home. So literally, they don't even understand what it takes for a parent to do something at work and then come home so enthused about it. They're doing it at the house. They're putting work in at the house, so they don't even realize wow. So once you start realizing, oh my goodness, so I'm aiming for all of these titles or accomplishments at the job, but I literally have been trained to be an unproductive employee. Wow, wow, I'm only working for a paycheck. There's no way I'm going to become a master in it. So, wow, okay. And some people might be cool with that process. That's cool. But at least as we start understanding what we came around before we were 10, it just gives us clarity so we can understand, wow, this is why I'm doing this. You know what I mean? And it's been, and because of that emotional intelligence process of knowing every day we're starting from ground zero, it has just helped me learn so much more about myself and others. And it's just one of the most exciting parts of this process is that it's not a fad. It's something that as time is going on, I'm just getting more value in having the ability to share it by learning from people like yourself, Mark, when I joined Toastmasters and was able to see, wow, there is an art to communication, you know? So I just am just thankful because I not only with adults, but with the kids, when they start understanding the pillars at a young age, it's like, ooh, it's a breakthrough. It's really cool.
That is so
That's beautiful.
true. I love that.
Beautiful.
Okay, I think we're all like in passionate agreement that we love the pillars.
Yeah.
Let's break it down a little bit. If this was a TED Talk, where would we end it? Because that's ultimately what we're getting at. Like if you were given this as a TED Talk, Kinja, obviously he can't spend his 15 minutes, 12 minutes, whatever he's doing for the TED Talk. He cannot. Ultimately, what you would want to do is have people read your book and be part of this movement of understanding the score and how to level it. But if we're actually talking about the talk, because I really want to set up the scene for how you talk about it. So regardless if this isn't a TED Talk or it's just you're out there talking about it. What would kind of be, think about your TED Talk. What would be like the last line? What's the last kind of thing that you want people to walk away with?
We are all works in progress. And what we may have considered our worst is actually our best once we focus on it.
I'm dying. I'm dying right now. I love how you took what we already talked about and so good.
I can speak on it. I know my functional alcoholism and my over 330-pound habits. Without those two things, there's no Kenja right now being able to turn all of those emotions and disciplines and transmutation of energy into what I'm doing right now. So when you really think about it, your worst thing is actually your best thing. If you can simply identify it and do your best to put more awareness on it. So that's when you get to the place of, wow, I'm redefining what I considered good and bad. Good is actually bad, bad is actually good, and then we all get leveled out, like you said, where we realize, wow, there's no need to get completely upset about any of the imbalances that I have in my life, because all they are signals that allow me to change and readjust my focus. So wow, every day is a new possibility, no matter where I am. And we have so many examples of people that were homeless that are now owning studios. Tyler Perry, for instance, people that were 300 and something pounds now, were in the craziest divorce, but now realize, wow, that was actually the best example. So we have so many examples of, wow, it really only makes sense to just level up no matter what. And understanding that up and down are relative, because when we really think about it, some of our worst days have turned into some of our best awakenings, and some of our best days have ended up turning into some of our worst situations. So it just helps everything have a little more meaning and an application to furthering our life force. So that's a little long for the end of the TED Talk, but the first sentence was the ending. But we
are
cool.
Works in progress. What we consider our worst can be our best. I love that. One thing that you made me think of too, Kinja, is because you were kind of saying when you identify the worst. Of course, when you identify the worst, it's then there's the only place in your life that you can make the most progress. Think about it. There's no other place in your life that you can make the most progress.
That's true. I love
Right?
that.
And so it just like clicked for me as to why, when people were in the most dire situations, why they turned it around so much was because they had identified that, like you're saying, Kinja, they had identified it and said, okay, that's really bad. I'm definitely going to take care of that. And when they did, because they were putting the focus on what was the worst, it became the thing that became their best. I mean, oh my God, that just like really clicked for me that you could, like, that is probably the scientific reason why people turn it around. It's because they had to level it out, and when in doing so, if I'm looking at these as numbers, if you're looking at that low one, in order for it to get higher, they had to put a lot of effort. I don't know. That was my.
What resonated with me about what you just said, and tying it in with what you've been saying, Kinja, is how do you know when what you're good at has become your worst?
Like the
right?
The job thing that he was explaining.
Yeah,
you're
right?
getting
Like,
it.
how do you know? Because you're so good at it. How do you know when it gets too high, or like when your grade gets too high and it's like, whoa, slow down, come back down, because now what you're good at is becoming your worst, which is then where you have the most room for growth. But how do you know? I'm only imagining, Kinja, and you got to tell us, is there a point where people struggle with figuring out when their good has become their worst and they need to level off?
To be 100% based on the emails, based on the conversations, is a lot of us do not get to that place because we start being comfortable with tangible results.
Yeah.
Because we are trained to allow tangible accomplishments to cause us to think that we have blossomed. And that is just a part of our humanity. But on the flip side, we see those outliers and we think that they're special when all they simply did was just continue to learn as if they did not have what everybody else is applauding them for. So it's really simple, is what I believe is the word of the day, the thought process of the day, is not to belittle our accomplishments, not to feel happy about the things that we have done, the things that we've gotten over, the accolades, the homes, the wives, the husbands, the children, but just understand, in order for me to align with the life force that has my heart beating continuously, it don't get to a point where it starts beating, it's like, ooh, I'm beating enough, let me stop. And you know what happens when that go down. So when we align with the life force that has the nature continuously growing, our heart continuously beating, we just have to understand that instead of getting complacent, inspiration to just serve more. Because there's another issue that can happen sometimes, is we can get to a place where more can be a negative. But if you really think about it, our thoughts about more is what makes it negative. There's nothing wrong with more when it's evenly placed. It only becomes an issue when it starts to take precedence over other priorities in your life. But when you really think about it, nothing wrong with more love, more joy, you know what I mean? More enthusiasm, more dedication. The issue is when we allow that more love to stop me paying attention to my emotional intelligence. So now my love now turns into jealousy and hatred because I now took my love and took the benefit from it because it was matched up with my emotional intelligence, and now I done became a stalker.
It ain't love anymore.
Now I'm at your door when you not home waiting, smelling your perfume. I love you so much, but I didn't even out my emotional intelligence with that love. See, so it becomes an issue when we don't apply it to all of the pillars evenly.
So the question is your life leveled? Like, that's a question you could ask people. Like, I really like that. Well, because you used, I know, it's a good. it's a good it's a good opening, right? Yeah, I think it's a good opening. I would because my brain, Kinja, my brain always just thinks in that way. Like, how do you hook people, and then what do you want them to do with how you hooked them? Like my brain thinks like a TED Talk. I can't help it.
I like that.
I know. I really love it, because then immediately, even like if I heard Kinja say that instead of what I heard before, because I mean, I think Kinja, you're really close to your content. And so, if you think about the entry point, somebody walking through a door to understand your content, they got to understand it on the most basic level first. And I think I would understand that immediately. As your life level, I'd be like, okay, I understand.
Yeah.
So he's talking about more than one thing. He's talking, and I don't even have to know. I'm already kind of like, I don't know exactly what he means yet, but I want to hear more. Makes me want to lean in a little bit. Tell me more. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I think that, and you can mess around with the words or something. I even put, is your life leveled? I don't know. I liked it. Not leveled. I don't know. I just like, yeah.
Whoa. I love that as a beginning question, and maybe
I love it too.
Right? I love it. I happen to be a fan of sometimes opening up with questions, more so because it just gets people thinking. And what you said is so powerful as well, that it gets people thinking about what it means, and then curious about what the answers are. Right. And now I want to know, what are we talking about that's level? What are we talking about? And then you introduce the 4 pillars. Yeah,
because Kinja, if you have this like turning your life force into a progressive movement through daily creative actions, I feel like that's something you would say to somebody at level 7, or
that's right,
or that's your running mantra. Like that's your internal, like that's what I want to do to people. Is I want to get people's life force into a progressive movement through their day. Like that's more of an instructional piece for you. It's not the hook. If that was a lyric of a song, you would never be able to repeat it, right?
That's right.
So, yeah, and right? I mean, that's. I don't even want to go down the music route, but you know how like people that are really into music, sometimes they're very mad at pop songs because they're very simple and the hook might be really easy. But honestly,
that's why they're hits.
That's why they're hits.
That's why they're hits.
Exactly.
And then people take their own meaning from it too, which I really like with what you're doing. Is like Mark and I could listen to the same song, same lyrics. We might even understand different lyrics, which is even funnier. We might think it says something different than what it is. But we'll take something different based on what happened to us before we were 10, based on some of our life beliefs. So if you get down to that basic level where you're asking somebody a question at that level, their brain has to answer it. The reason why questions are powerful is because your brain engages immediately, and your brain wants to answer for you immediately. And so I just really like this as an intro to what you're doing. But I love where you started, Kinja, because I feel like those are your marching orders. Those are kind of I feel like that's what you're trying to do with everybody that you work with. Or that's what you want them to get to. But that might not be the order in which you get them there.
I'm so appreciative.
Yeah. Go for it. Talk to us.
No, I'm appreciative because what you two just did for me is reaffirm why being a student and being at grade 0 every day is so important, because you literally have helped me. You've increased my ability to help people by me being open to understand. Wow, because literally that what I shared is the definition on page 18 of the 354-page book. That's a paraphrase of recreationism, an all-inclusive life practice that merges the mind and body into a progressive life force through daily creative action. Mumble rap.
I can see that being like a fast rap, like you could like, yeah.
It's really cool for you to help me now be able to position this not only for the TED Talk, but in front of people that are hungry to see what these pillars are all about. So I'm just so appreciative and thankful. Thank you. This is light bulbs popping off. I thank you. I'm gonna use it
awesome.
too. I appreciate you, Cathey, also because when at the beginning of the conversation, you talked about that phrase, and you talked about creating more of an entry point. And Kinja, as you just said, as you just mumbled rap that whole line, right? You also said page 18. And what I love about what you just said and the question you just asked is, this is what's going to get me to open up the book so that I can get to page 18.
Actually, I was thinking that when he said page 18, I'm like, this is not even page 1. This is like the book is sitting on the shelf. How do I want to pick it up? Yes. It's not even page 1, because page 1 means I've already bought into what you're saying. I can't buy into what you're saying if I haven't picked up the book.
That's right. Wow.
And you can't start a book off with that type of mumble. Yeah. I gotta take up to 17 pages so we get to the definition.
Right. Yeah, and you did. Yeah, exactly. So, and you did, I'm sure. So, yeah, I love this. Kinja, I really appreciate what you just said too, because I think that makes Marc and I feel like our purpose, we want to help people help people.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when we listen to we listen to a lot of people tell ideas. So then our brains are always on, you're really close to what you teach, but our brains are always on like, ooh, how can somebody immediately digest this, immediately be curious, and immediately want to do something with it? What will I do with it at the end? Like we kind of always think that way. So we're really happy. I'm really happy to hear you say that it will help you help other people. I'm grateful.
Yes. I'm honored. Thank you. This is what it's all about when a person realizes that it's not just about me and we're better together. We're better together. There's no competition except myself. And what you just did is help me compete with myself, which is the beautiful part of this growth-oriented leveling up process that we're all involved in. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah. And I guess one more thing I would ask, Marc, what do you think about this? Because Kinja said something earlier that I really liked. It's like, if you look at another person, you realize we're all humans, we're all humanity, we're all, I forgot how you said it, but basically living organisms, and we're all in search of these things. We're all in search of purpose, love, joy, connection. Like we all want all of these things, regardless of how we're trying to go about getting it. What if it's also too about, and this is not maybe the first line, right? But my brain's like thinking, it's like, not only is your life leveled, but how do you get the people that you love leveled too? Like, how do you, like you, Marc, you have 3 kids. Yeah. You have 3 kids at home. And I think what Ken just said is so great. If you had your kids, forget what they're learning in school, because, anybody can, it's important. Yeah. I know he's as a school teacher, administrator, he's like, wait, what? No. It's not forget, but it's like, if the big most important thing, like when your kids are, older and like when they're our age, if they've got all this down, right? Knowing their purpose, understand, health, caring about their health, knowledge and their emotions, like they'll be really great, well-rounded humans that can also, it's like such I just feel like it's a really compound effect, isn't it, Kinja? Like probably when you changed your life, didn't all the people that you love the most, didn't it affect their lives? So leveling up levels everybody up.
It does. I love your brain. I love your brain, because here's what I'm also thinking about. When I hear this message, I hear it for an audience that might be ready themselves to level my life, right? Like I'm coming in there because I've recognized that I need help. But what you made me think about, Cathey, is sometimes the situation is we have somebody in our life where good or too good has become worst, and they can't seem to get out of it. And sometimes, whether it's family or friends, and we need to bring somebody around and we need to help them. And we need help in learning how to help somebody close to us level up, right? Whether it be that friend who's going through something, it's like, come on, man. Come on, Kenja. How many donuts are you going to eat, my brother? Can't you see that it's ruining your life? And you're like, no, man, I'm loving the smell of these donuts. And it's like, Cathey, I think we need to get together because Kenja's not seeing it. Yeah. So I'm just saying that because sometimes our audience, especially in terms of personal development and self-growth is so much about the people who are ready themselves, but you have an opportunity also to speak to those others who are trying to help somebody close in their life.
Yeah, I mean, Kinja will be so much more powerful if you think, when you start talking to people, if you think, like I think about my mom, right? And I could even see myself doing a covert operation where you're not, you don't want to go to somebody and say, I think you have no purpose in life. Like, I don't think your purpose is like, or something.
I think your levels are off.
Your levels are way off. Like, you don't have, like, but then you could, I could talk to somebody in a different language thinking about that. I would think about the questions where I would start asking people, like, what really makes you happy? What brings you joy? Like, what do you feel like you're your best at? I would ask questions that would be around purpose if I thought the people that I loved needed to level up more, or level out more, I should say, right? Yeah. Or how their life could be leveled. Yeah. I don't know. It's another layer, Kinja, but it's a layer that I think it would be really important. I think sometimes a lot of people will love their people and their lives more than themselves, unfortunately and sadly. Mm-hmm. And so maybe that's the faster way to them as well. It's like if I think about my kids, I'm gonna go hard there first before I even go for myself.
Absolutely. If I see my child in trouble, I'm like, I need to contact Kinja Dixon because I need to learn the tools that have helped me, but now I need to learn the tools to help my child or my mother or my wife or whatever. So I think that's really powerful.
Right. I know I'm kind of branching out, but one of the things to think about for the way that you talk about this, Kinja, are like all the things that would really, I think of a person and I think that when you have an idea, you're trying to find a way to get through to them. And some people hear stuff and they go, I've heard that before. They ignore it because they just think it's whatever. And it's like, no, you need to find a way to get to them. And that's another way to get to them, make them care.
Another layer.
And as I hear you too, I think about the first book, Universal Talk Laws, that deals with communication. Because what I learned along my journey that I really made some mistakes on is that I did not treat giving the message to my family members or friends at the same high level that I would with my clients. Oh. And what ended up happening is once I started to realize that every single person that I communicate with deserves the same level of respect and strategy for them to understand or receive or literally recommend themselves by my strategy instead of just, why don't you? Once I started to apply the same level of detail and strategy to everyone so that everyone is considered my most important client, that has also helped with the messaging. Because what happened in my case is that I would be a certain way in front of clients and have this high level, and then I would make some of my close family and friends uncomfortable because of not applying that same strategy. And so now my intent was now going in the opposite direction. And one of the things that helped me synergize, and I would say because of a lack of hunger to gain new knowledge and a mixture of a low emotional intelligence, I was shining overall, but then now you shining in certain parts of your life, but then when your view changes for certain people that you're comfortable with, that you've known for years, now your grade drops when it's high over here. And that also includes the leveling, So yeah, it's amazing when you share what you're saying, because now it's to the point, I joke about this, I just talked about it in the start of my tour. As I said, it's to the point now where I just focus on my grades at a high level. I can be around, say I'm at a friend's house and they mess around and start, just start, shooting up right next to me. I'm like, oh, whoa, the old me is like, what's wrong with you, man? You need to stop that. The new me is like, wow, man, how long you been doing that, bro? Man, okay. And I'm asking questions because I don't want to put that pressure on them. So I'm so crazy with it now that I'm putting more energy on my pillars and just being that presence and only helping if they ask for it, because at the end of the day, I just believe that has been working out. So I've had so much positive change happen in so many family and friends' lives since I've adapted that. Let me tell you how to live your life. Let me just be your friend. Let me love you the best way you are and increase my pillars. I've had so much more benefit by just not doing what we've been trained to do. So speaking, you made me think about that when you were sharing, because a lot of times our intentions just do the opposite. Because instead of me telling you what to do, I'm going to show you through my actions and love you for who you are. Because honestly, I have, there are people that are no longer here anymore that I really wish I would have loved them for who they were, and just they had their habits. I would have rather enjoyed time with you while you had your habits instead of isolating myself because I made you so uncomfortable for doing something that you've been trained to do since you were 10. You know what I mean? So let me not change you and let me just love you, which is an emotional intelligence situation that some of us never get to because we just want to impose our right on somebody else that doesn't know that's right, because right is relative. Think about the Spanish Inquisition, the millions of people that were killed due to their religious situation because of right. So once we start learning that, wow, everybody just doing the best they can, it just detaches so many infringements on people's actions that our normal way of humanity causes us to do. So
that sounds like the third and the fourth TED Talk right there.
I know. Well, yeah. I think, what he just said, there's so much wisdom in that. I was like, oh my gosh, everybody in the world just got docked 2 points in their emotional intelligence just by listening to Kinja. They're like, uh-oh, because how many of us have tried to impose our beliefs on people that we love? I mean,
absolutely.
I just even that right there, I think that's an important part of your message, Kinja. Ooh, because I felt so much when you were saying that.
Yeah.
So much.
That's when those family members are like, "Stop coaching me. Stop being a motivational speaker. You trying to be a You trying to be a recreation strategist right now, Kenja?"
Don't. I have a shirt that says "Don't TED Talk Me." One of my clients gave me a shirt that says "Don't TED Talk Me." Yeah.
Oh wow.
Don't TED Talk me.
but to your point, we have a tendency to do that.
Yeah.
And the lesson here about catching that, leveling ourselves off. Right? So that we don't do that, because that would be most helpful. That's really powerful. Really powerful.
And that can't happen without us getting off of a well-intentioned high horse.
Yeah.
And I say it as I exhale, because I'm telling you, I've been humbled so many times only due to being able to focus on these pillars where I'm just like, wow, man. And so I just don't ever want to make that mistake again. So I keep it at the top of my focus when I'm speaking. And one of the people from Vanguard, one of the engagements I said, they said, Kinja, we've never had such an experience of someone being so assertive and demanding, but also so vulnerable and childlike simultaneously. And I'm like, that's something that I had a touch of when I was in China training with Shifu Yan Li. And I give him credit for it, because that was my first time seeing someone that was a master for over 40-something years, but wouldn't eat until we ate. And it's something that I remember having that awakening, and that's my goal, to just try my best to do it. And theoretically, I tried it, but now finally, 6 years later, as you keep working on the pillars, it's finally coming through action that, wow, there is a way to love someone and want the best for them, but without making them uncomfortable in the process. You know what I mean? So,
Kinja Dixon, I love you so much. Just listening to you, makes me want to be a better person by what you said.
Wow.
Thank you for that. Like, I just feel so connected to what you said. Like, so personally, so connected.
Wow.
I love that.
Kenja, I'll just say this, and I've told you this before. I still remember when you came and spoke to a group of students, and that one student who is the storybook case of like everything's not working and we're not getting through, and you came in, and I remember that student coming up to me afterwards and just speaking to how you were able to get through. And I thank you today because this conversation, I wasn't that bad kid in school, but as a good kid right now, sitting here with my sister Cathey on the East Coast, you know I got to get over to the West Coast, and we got to do this in person on the West Side. You got through to me today, brother.
Yeah.
And it was really powerful. And you got through to me today, not only for myself, but for my children,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And for my friends and for the people that I know. You gave me a lot to think about today, and you equipped me with a lot of things. And I hope everybody who's listening walks away with that. And just to add to something else, and just in terms of what we've also learned about ideas, I also hope that everybody walks away understanding this nugget that was dropped today about you can walk in with an amazing idea that's near and dear to your heart and is ingrained in your brain that you could just spitfire it. But when it's so close to you, as Cathey always says, how do you find a way to get somebody to open up the book to learn more?
Oh, I love that, Mark. And with that, I'll ask you, Kinja, like how, we started talking and you started with what you called your mumble rap, right? I love that. How have things changed for you since, over the progression of this conversation?
You have helped solidify you to how intentions without an ongoing strategy to make your intentions get delivered better can sometimes have you miss the mark. And the entire goal of our lofty intentions is to increase the delivery. So it's just helped me understand why I need to continue being in student mode, continue to listen to people that have my best interest at heart, utilize the wisdom of others to help my mission go forward, our mission go forward. And I'm just so honored to have been a part of this because I have 5 to 7 notes that are going to permanently be included in the way I serve. Done. So you all have just helped a mission, a 14-year mission that I'm on. You've just turned up the volume. You just leveled out the pillars in my mission. I love it. I'm on it. I appreciate it.
Kinja, I love this. Well, you've already affected Mark, and I know anybody watching right now has probably felt the same thing we have on some different level. Where can people find out more about you? Like, where's the best place for people to see what you're doing? Because you're fire.
Finally, KinjaDixon.com has now merged every single one of my books, my travel blog decade series where I travel the world and you see the big me and the small me in different beautiful landscapes around the world. And I'm on Facebook and Instagram. So but KinjaDixon.com is now an all-inclusive, beautiful way for you to get in contact and to get a hold of all of the methods of service that I'm going to continue pouring into this world as long as the universe gives me life. And I'm like, literally, we are all just getting started. So, and I want the person that's going through something right now to just realize you're going through this for a purpose. And if you just take a step back, even though it may be a little hard to do, it will be worth it because you have somebody in this world that is looking at you for inspiration, whether you know they're looking or not.
Oh, Kinja, thank you. The one and only Kinja Dixon.
Wow.
Everything at KinjaDixon.com. If somebody out there wants to find Marc and I, we have a website too. It's probably not as cool as KinjaDixon.com, I'm sure, but you can find us at it'sabouttogodownshow.com. Yeah, look at we're repping today in the Brooklyn podcasting studio. Come on, let's props to them. You can find us there, but I want to thank everybody for watching, but I want to end our show with a line that you said. And Kinja, this was your line. I'm imagining you standing on that red dot giving your TED Talk, and this is how I want to end this show with what you said. To anybody watching, Kinja told you that we are all works in progress. What we consider our worst could be our best. And on that, Kinja, Dixon, thank you so much for being on our show, for spreading your light and your love and your message. And thank you for being on It's About to Go Down.
Beautiful. Thank you, too, for serving us.